CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Search and rescue efforts underway after a collapsed mine kills at least 50 people in the DRC. Afghanistan's government and the Taliban open historic peace talks in Doha. And Uganda resumes deployment of peacekeepers to Somalia. Hello and a very warm welcome to you wherever you're joining us. This is Africa Live on CGTN. I'm Mahia Mutua in Nairobi. Also coming up, in sports, Tunisia's shooter Olfa Cherni fired up for her 4th Olympic Games in Japan next year. Welcome to the program. Now, efforts are underway to find survivors after an artisanal gold mine collapsed near Kamituga in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo, killing at least 50 men. According to a local mining NGO, the accident occurred due to heavy rains. Local residents are volunteering in the search and rescue efforts. The office of the governor of South Kivu province says most of the victims were young people and expressed condolences to their families. Officials have declared 2 days of mourning. Such accidents are common in unregulated makeshift mines in the country. Bahrain says it will normalize ties with Israel. It is the second Arab state to do so in the space of a month, following in the footsteps of the UAE. U.S. President Donald Trump took to Twitter, calling the deal a historic breakthrough. The agreement is expected to be signed at the White House later next week. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that the meeting would be a great historic moment of peace.
It took us a full 26 years from Israel's second peace agreement with an Arab state to the third peace agreement. And now it's taken us only 29 days from the third peace agreement to the fourth. What a change. I'm looking forward with enormous anticipation to meeting all 4 countries, Israel, the United States, United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain, in this great historic moment of peace next Tuesday in Washington, D.C.
Meanwhile, the U.S. brokered deal has drawn criticism from some Middle Eastern countries. The Palestinian leadership says the agreement supports what it calls the legalization of the Israeli occupation's heinous crimes against Palestinians and the destruction of the Arab Peace Initiative. Turkey also calls it a fresh blow to efforts for the Palestinian cause. Iran says Bahrain's move threatens regional security, and Jordan says the deal undermines the chances of peace and deepens the conflict. Staying in the Middle East, peace talks between the Afghan government and the Taliban are underway in Qatar. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who's also involved in the talks, says they are an historic opportunity to end America's longest war. They come a day after the 19th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks, which triggered the long-running U.S. military campaign in Afghanistan. Jim Stenman has more from Dubai.
These talks have the potential to bring an end to nearly 2 decades of conflict that's devastated Afghanistan and killed tens of thousands of combatants and civilians. While getting the 2 parties to the negotiating table is an achievement in itself, the road ahead won't necessarily be an easy one due to the sheer complexity of questions needing to be tackled, including what kind of country Afghans themselves want to live in and what role the Taliban might have. The Afghan peace talks come at a time when President Donald Trump is keen to show progress on his pledge to pull out most of America's foreign forces stationed in Afghanistan, especially with the U.S. election around the corner.
Well, the U.S. Special Representative to Afghanistan says he's hoping for real progress for peace and a full withdrawal of U.S. troops from the country by April. But Shadi Khan Saif, a journalist and analyst who's been covering the Afghan war for over 10 years now, says a breakthrough isn't expected soon.
Well, at this initial phase, no other breakthroughs are expected, at least for months, if I do not exaggerate. So far, the two sides are speaking broadly about their own stances on the nature, the format of the future government that they would like to have, with one party, the Taliban, clearly seeking a revival of the totalitarian Islamic regime, while the Afghan side, the Republic side, striving very hard to keep the democracy, the Western-backed democracy, intact. They are relying very heavily on the international community, the regional powers such as China, to play their part to end their miseries that have been going on for 4 decades. The country has been, sitting on natural reserves worth trillions of dollars. So that untapped resources can, unleash an era of prosperity for the whole region if, the plans for the connectivity and the plans of interaction in the region and indeed globally, are practicalized.
Well, here in Africa, Uganda has resumed rotational deployment of peacekeepers to Somalia after halting the exercise due to COVID-19. The troop rotational exercise has been suspended in April after one of the soldiers tested positive for COVID-19. Uganda has around 6,000 soldiers under the peacekeeping mission AMISOM in Somalia. CGTN's Hilary Ayesiga tells us more.
Uganda is deploying 1,800 troops to Somalia. The troops will replace an equal number of soldiers who have been serving there. The rotation exercise was delayed due to the outbreak of COVID-19.
We are all new to this. We do not know what to do. We do not have the capacity then in terms of preparation to handle the situation. So the deployment was halted for 4 months.
The Ugandan army now says they've built capacity to contain the virus.
We've acquired, I can say, enough PPEs. In terms of personnel, like I've said, we have trained, people have trained. We have increased on the numbers to cater for the pandemic. And we've put in place the isolation centers.
This is the 30th battle group to be deployed since 2007. There are over 20,000 peacekeeping troops in Somalia battling Al-Shabaab insurgents. The UN-backed peacekeeping force has troops from Uganda, Burundi, Djibouti, Kenya, and Ethiopia. Hilary Ayesiga, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
To South Africa now, where there's been some good news in Cape Town's efforts to cope with the effects of a lengthy drought. Dam levels have reached their highest level in over 4 years. The city came close to running out of water completely when a prolonged lack of rainfall saw water levels drop to just slightly over the 20% mark. CGTN's Travers Andrews tells us more.
It's a sight that has brought a huge sense of relief for many in Cape Town. The Berg River Dam, which is one of the city's main water sources, is now filled up above capacity. In fact, all the dams supplying the Cape Town metropolis are now holding water at well over 95% of their capacity. That's a significant improvement in water levels since the drought began.
The dams are full, and it is a sight that we're all ecstatic about because we haven't seen this since about 2014, when we had all of those dams almost full. They're about 95%. Some of them are full, and they obviously will vary. But it is very amazing change, given the fact that we were right at this day zero and we're concerned in 2018, round about January, whether we'd even make it through till the next winter rains. So it's an amazing turnaround.
A succession of storm systems that brought torrential rains and flooding helped fill up the dams to near capacity. Snow mounting from the surrounding mountain peaks also assisted as runoff flowed into the catchment areas. With level 1 water restrictions still in place, an average of 633 million litres of water is being consumed every day. That's just half of the pre-drought volumes.
And it's not necessarily because we've had more rainfall, because our average rainfall right now is slightly above average. What we really have done better at is to manage the water, and that's why those dams are so full right now. a combination of the average rainfall being where it is, but also mostly we've reduced our demand for water by over 50%.
Cape Town residents, though, are not likely to receive any financial benefits for being water-wise. That's because the city won't be dropping water tariffs yet, as consumption may have dropped, but supply costs still remain the same. Reducing water rationing is, however, being considered.
Currently on level 1 water restriction, so a level down from that essentially would be no restriction, or what we would term being water-wise. We will make an assessment at the end of the official rainy season, or the hydrological year, which is at the end of October, and we will look at a range of factors to determine what the suitable restrictions are for the new hydrological period.
The dams may be healthy, but that might not be for much longer, because seasonal changes will bring warmer weather and less rainfall. City officials here are also urging all residents to maintain their water-wise approach that helped avoid day zero from becoming a reality. Travis Andrews, CGTN, Cape Town.
Stay with us here on Africa Live. Coming up, Ethiopians usher in their new calendar year with hope for better days ahead.
How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself? If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. Now, Friday marked the Ethiopian New Year. For many Ethiopians, the holiday is a time for celebration. For restaurants in the country, it was a chance to have customers come through their doors. Astatal has more.
This year's Ethiopian New Year brought good news for the Abyssina restaurant. The restaurant is a popular tourist destination where visitors can taste authentic Ethiopian cuisine and catch a show. The COVID-19 pandemic led to the restaurant closing its doors.
We had sustained heavy losses due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We only opened last week because of the new year. It is not very encouraging because people may still be afraid. Of course, we are also working with strict precautions. We have significantly reduced the number of staff.
A state of emergency declared on April 8th had banned group gatherings larger than 4 people. The decree expired on September 5th, allowing restaurants like Abyssina to reopen their doors.
The Ministry of Health has told us that the pandemic will not disappear anytime soon, and we need to get back to life by practicing prevention methods. So we have to go back to work now. We will see in the future how things go.
As he waits for more customers to come through his doors, Tizazu is hopeful that business will pick up again. Astatal, CGTN.
Now to our continuing series, Amazing Xinjiang. Located by the borders of Kazakhstan, Russia and Mongolia, northern Xinjiang's Kanas combines diverse plant and animal species with Mongolian ethnic minority culture. 13 forest ranger stations scatter across the land. CGN's team went deep into the woods and met with the rangers who protect the forests.
A thunder shower washes the forest green. Time for this crew of rangers to set off on a routine patrol. A ride that could take hours or even days. In Kanas, 13 forest ranger stations scatter across the reserve, covering some 2,200 square kilometers. These guardians go deep into the untouched woods, looking after nature's gifts. For the cruise chief, 40-year-old Bais Hula, he's been doing the same job every week for nearly 2 decades, patrolling the area, reporting the risks of wildfire and deforestation, and hunting for pest damage and potential poachers.
We carry stones in our pockets while patrolling, and place stones or marks on wood at crossings. After years of patrolling, you become familiar with these roads. You may think all mountains look the same, but each one has its own name, and it's all based on experience.
Missions sometimes put lives at risk. For example, when crossing ranging rivers deep in the forest. That was especially the case in the old days, when there were no bridges.
There were only 5 ranger stations and a few staff members when I first came, but there were many who illegally gathered cordyceps. They were always on the move, knew how to ride, and you couldn't and wouldn't dare catch them. Today, with more help, greater levels of protection, and improved legal awareness, they no longer show up.
One huge challenge is loneliness. During their long periods of isolation, the rangers only have 3 days a month at home. Instead of family, they have to find solace in their colleagues, horses, and the silent mountains.
I devoted all my youth to kanas. When I was 20, I spent the whole summer in the mountains with no signal and no chance to meet girls. It's too late if you don't get married at 33 here, and I became a leftover man. Fortunately, I managed to find someone later who understands my work.
Now Bais Hula is the breadwinner for 2 children. He says he will teach them the importance of protecting their land, while also respecting the desire of young people to chase opportunities outside mountains. Some from the new generation have decided to take up the mantle of their forebears, like Tilek Nulebek, who became a forest ranger after graduating from university.
I've liked the feeling of the mountains since childhood. It's clean, and the last pure land in Xinjiang needs someone to protect it.
It's a career that comes at a cost, but he says the sacrifice brings him a sense of accomplishment he cannot find elsewhere.
Most staff at our station can't speak Mandarin very well, so I teach some in my spare time, and I also help them write the log. And this year we have 3 postgraduate students working on research projects, so we often help them too.
While fewer and fewer locals from the young generation are willing to work through the sun and the rain, Tilek has a different idea.
I have feelings for the mountains, rivers, and the people here. It's hard to leave them. Now the state has made great efforts to protect nature, and the conditions of our workplace are gradually improving. I think the future will be better and better.
For Tilek and others like him, such feelings are deeply rooted, and it's their sense of responsibility that sets them apart.
Well, one village in northern Xinjiang's Burjin County is one of the 3 places in China where the Tuvas people congregate. They're a branch of the country's Mongolian ethnic group. Tangbo tells us how their traditions are adapting to modern times.
It's 7 a.m. in Hannah's village. Naza Yaguli rises, getting ready to prepare breakfast for her family. To wake everyone up, fresh milk is absolutely necessary. She lets the calf suckle first. Cows provide milk much better afterwards. Milk streams rush into the pail, frothing and fragrant. It's time to go home to cook some breakfast. This is Chesan Chechik, Naza Yaguli's daughter. There's no natural gas in their yurt, so they have to cook with firewood. She's got a younger brother who's still in bed.
你每天早上都是最先起床的是吗？然后去挤牛奶。 挤牛奶，然后开始负责家里的一天的伙食了。
Naza Yaguli and her family are Tuvas people, a branch of the Mongolian ethnic group in China. Just like other nomadic peoples, they start the day with the big breakfast. There are deep-fried dough cakes, bread, and cheese products, a very important source of vitamins. And of course, hot and fresh milk is a must. Chesan Chichik is a college student, majoring in preschool education. Her younger brother is about to start his last year of senior high school, so the family is always talking about him.
他出生的时候，他老是，我听他就是那种乌鸦的叫声那种啊嘎嘎嘎，就是那种的。然后我就过去，他为什么要这样？然后我就说，要么给他取个乌鸦的名字吧。
但是乌鸦不太好，是吗？
然后我妈说乌鸦不行，太黑了。
太黑了。
哦，那就小鸟。
This is Little Bird, the younger brother, Bayirku. Today, Bayirku woke up late at noon. He says it was too cold in the morning.
你现在吃的是早饭呢，还是午饭啊？早饭。早饭，那一会儿午饭怎么办？午饭继续吃。
Today, the family is making milk wine and cheese products. They distill fermented milk to make the beverage and drain up what's left to get what they call milk tofu. It's food of protein, calcium, fat, and vitamins. For the Mongolian ethnic group, who don't often eat fruit and vegetables, cheese products are key to having a balanced diet. It's part of their tradition, dating back more than 1,000 years, a way of life that's been passed down from one family to the next, generation after generation.
Well, it's just about time for the sports here on Africa Live. Here's what's coming up. Tunisian shooter Olfa Cherni fired up for her 4th Olympic Games in Japan next year.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours? Sports Scene. Find your game.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Let's start things off in Tunisia, where a female Olympic shooter is now back on the range in the North African country following the pandemic lockdown. Olfa Cherni is proud of her 4th qualification to the Olympics following participation at the 2008, 2012 and 2016 Games. CGTN's Adnan Shawashi has more.
Olfa Cherni is one of the best shooters in Tunisia, Africa and the Arab region. She won 5 Arab titles and has dominated the sport discipline in Africa for several years. Now she continued the preparation for the 2021 Summer Olympics.
The Tunisian shooting team was in the midst of preparation for the Olympics when the coronavirus pandemic hit the world. The preparation here at home and abroad was interrupted. We've stagnated for a few months to respect health protocols. Then we resumed normal training to get ready for the Olympic challenge.
The champion says that belonging to the Tunisia shooting sport team is a huge responsibility. Olfa is a hard-working and disciplined athlete who views rigor and patience as key characteristics for any shooter.
In addition, the shooting discipline, just like that of any other sport, requires a good physical condition, hard training without interruption, strength and courage. We need to work in a calm training facility. Patience and concentration are necessary in this sport.
Farid Al-Amri is the coach of the national team. He says that the Tunisia Shooting Sport Federation has provided the necessary logistical and human needs and accompanied its best athletes for several years in order to improve their level at international tournaments, especially the Summer Olympics.
Tunisia can win an Olympic medal in the shooting discipline. In 2016, in Brazil, Olfa almost qualified to the final. She was very close to the podium. She ranked 9th while only 8 shooters reached the final. Now the preparation is underway to reach the 2021 Olympics and to show their best performance.
The COVID-19 crisis has interrupted the preparation of the Tunisia shooting sport team. Now that the situation is under control, Olfa, Farid and other professionals are hoping for a gold medal in the 2021 Summer Olympics. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
Onto motorsport, Mercedes Formula One Championship leader Lewis Hamilton has taken pole position for the first Tuscan Grand Prix at Italy's Mugello circuit on Saturday, with teammate Valtteri Bottas joining him on the front row. Red Bull's Max Verstappen qualified third